If this goes poorly today, it's been fun. Probationary ends. But in reality, we have an excellent quality of life in the community, and that drives opportunity more than anything. And to Dr. Carr's position, one of the things that I think has challenged our region as a whole has been our lack of intercollaboration. I'm a hyper-collaborative person. I come from a marketplace where my former agency job oversaw the growth for an entire county, but I also had a lot of frenemies intergovernmentally talking about what the jobs were. And so I've taken that same level of collaboration in my role in talking with our partners in Whitehall or Reynoldsburg or New Albany or Westerville and understanding what helps drive them and make sure we're complementing each other in opportunities and resource. Because our trails connect to other communities, our roads connect to other communities. And although we have jobs here in Gahanna, those jobs can be filled by people in those communities as our residents here travel to those communities for their opportunities. So it's very much of a blended aspect. What we can be doing better, quite frankly, is readiness. I hate, detest, dislike, find your synonym, fire drills in opportunities. And so having readiness of inventory, whether that is in the economic base sector, understanding what our office, what our industrial spaces look like and how can we prepare those for the next iteration of opportunity, or in our small business sectors and making sure that those spaces are fully categorized and cataloged so that we know what spaces and where our holes are so we can backfill those opportunities readily and efficiently rather than chasing our tails or chasing down information. I want to be as prepared as possible so that when we are ready to go on a project, regardless of economic or non-economic base, we're prepared.
If I may add one more thing to it as well, because I think we have some members from the school district in the audience as well, or maybe at least listening. And I think there is a big, for years now, but it's even heightened now about as we're trying to bring jobs here, do we have the talent that can even perform the jobs? So the workforce development part is so critical, and I think schools have to be part of that conversation as you're trying to educate the next young professional in whatever field that is. Make sure that the schools can share with them the opportunities that are out there, anything from college to associate degree to a vocational degree as well. And I mean, you can speak to this some more, but just talking to Kenny over the last few years, Kenny McDonald, I mean, that is something that he struggled at times and even lost businesses to locate here just because they weren't able to find the workforce to employ.
Yeah, that's a significant piece to it. Mm-hmm. The one last thing that I would say is, you're not going to be able to acquire thousands of acres and develop out and grow out. And I'm going to go back to why it's so critically important understanding the challenges of your existing companies. Because as a location like Gahanna, I think Gahanna's local economy, I don't know this specifically, but the region is pretty economically diverse. There's not more than one sector makes up more than 17% of our regional economy, and I think Gahanna's probably is pretty close to reflecting that diversity, which is great because you're not solely dependent upon automotive or just having office product. So you're going to have opportunity, and I think the most critical thing when you're a little landlocked and you're a little challenged from a real estate standpoint is being able to, when you understand your company's challenge, your core companies and their challenges, being able to provide them with a unique solution to keep them there as they go through growing pains, as they grow, as they have different challenges, you're able to meet those and keep them there. That's, I think, critically important, especially to a community that doesn't have significant outwardly growth opportunities. Yeah, sure. Anybody else? Okay, good, thanks. Thank you.
I'll make this brief. Thank you all. Have a great night. Let's go find dinner. Nate Strum, Economic Development Director for the City of Gahanna. As I mentioned, tomorrow I'll be celebrating my 6-month anniversary here. It hasn't felt like 6 months. I won't tell you what the duration of time it has felt like, but know that I really appreciated my time with the city. This has been wonderful to get back to my roots a little bit. as I told the mayor when I joined the city staff, and you can judge me on this or not, but I'm a very proud Pittsburgher. I come from a urban community. I'm used to being in the suburbs. I love working with communities like this that are landlocked, that have different challenges. I'm a proud Muskie, so that's actually brought me into Central Ohio. I was a Muskingum College, not university graduate from 2006. And I'm also just a recent Bobcat, so I'm a very proud OU alum as well. I graduated from the Voinovich School this past year. I was a COVID grad, finishing my master's degree at the Voinovich School. But as I mentioned in my credentials real quick, City of Zanesville was my first job, so if you get a chance to go to the City of Zanesville, ever go to Weasel Boy Brewing, Chipotle, or the Cinemark, you're welcome. If you haven't patronized those places, I'm sorry, you've missed all my achievements in my 2.5 years in Zanesville when I started my career. But really, my career has been defined working back in the Pittsburgh market, working for Allegheny County Economic Development and the RIDC of Southwestern PA, where I went into communities, understood their drivers. To Justin's point earlier, understanding where their barriers to success were and then breaking down those walls. In Allegheny County in particular, there's 130 municipalities. 129 of them are not named Pittsburgh. And so those were the communities that I did my work in. And worked tirelessly in working in those areas to help bring in opportunities, understand drivers. You know, I was very proud to know Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman. Before he was Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, he was Mayor of Braddock. He and I worked collaboratively on a hospital redevelopment project there in the third poorest community in the United States at the time. And so these were great projects. These are things that are instilled in me from a collaborative standpoint, because that hospital project didn't just affect the city of Braddock. It's affected the village of Rankin. It's affected Homestead, West Homestead, McKeesport, Duquesne, the Mon Valley as a whole. And so these are the ways I bring my experience into the deal. And then Justin noted earlier, my most recent job was working with Grow-Licking County. You know, so I was a friend of me in the region to Gahanna and other urban areas for the last almost 6 years. We did about $2.6 billion worth of growth over that time frame, working in key areas of technology, manufacturing, logistics, healthcare, finding those partners and bringing those opportunities together. But I'm also bigger than that. So I like to think I'm a true professional and a holistic practitioner of economic development. So I'm actually the acting president of the Mid-Ohio Development Exchange. So Justin and I have an even tighter knowledge base, as MODE is the sister agency to One Columbus. And so we really focus on the representative opportunities between our public partners and OC about how do we bring these deals together and how do we make sure that our communities continue to thrive and prosper in unison with some of our other objectives. And then I'm also on the board of directors for the Ohio Economic Development Association. I serve as their marketing and communications chair and was also the summit chair this past year, overseeing the 2-day summit of professionals here in Dublin, Ohio. What I'm most proud about is the next slide. When I came in, the mayor, bless her soul, said, make a team. Go find the professionals that complement you so well. And so I'm gonna have Emily stand up real quick. Emily was my first hire about 6 weeks into the job. She's been hiding in the back monitoring our YouTube page. I poached Emily from the Dublin team. She had been working as a grad intern with the city of Dublin for a number of years, overseeing some of their economic opportunities, building those relationships and understanding the key drivers in that marketplace. With a background from Miami, which I'll forgive, and an Ohio State grad. Listen, I'm an OU, it's fine. It's been a great compliment, and she's really served as my right hand, especially in the project base. So she does a lot of work in our economic-based sectors. And then we fortunately found Courtney. Courtney, if you don't mind standing up real quick. Courtney joins us out of the Boston area. So Courtney is a Midwestern person. Her family lives in Illinois. Extended family lives here in the Central Ohio marketplace. She's a really proud Buckeye. And so she's been thrilled to come back into Columbus. But what I joke with the mayor is you went from having one person in a role that's been relatively vacant, part-time, consultant-based during the pandemic, to having 4 masters and 3 professionals spanning about 25 to almost 30 years of activity in the span of literally 90 days. It's been refreshing, it's been daunting, it's been nauseating at times. We've been very busy, which I always accept. And to tell you how busy we have been, I asked my team to pull together some raw data for me. Tell me, if you can quantify what we've been up to. And so both of them shared some of their data points, and I wanted to share this information. From an economic-based standpoint, so this is Emily and I working collaboratively on projects, but she's been the real driver. 18 BREs. So Justin mentioned earlier about the role of business engagements and understanding how that affects opportunities. So we've had 18 different economic-based BREs. We've had 8 different workforce conversations. Yes, so we actually go into the plants. So we reach out to businesses. We try to engage them and understand what drives them opportunity-wise, how they're doing economically, workforce shortages, supply chain issues, what's impacting their businesses, and then how we can help fold in resource, whether that's at the city level, street lights out, or pothole needs to repair, something very basic, all the way up to talking with Justin or Jobs Ohio about large-scale incentivization and opportunity, if that helps. Yes. 20 different engagements with the private development community. So this includes brokers and developers who are exploring active projects in Gahanna today. We've worked on a handful of Jobs Ohio-based leads, so the projects that Justin had mentioned, either through One Columbus or Jobs Ohio, we're actively pursuing. And actually, her desk is fairly full right now. I'm aware of at least 7 different opportunities that she is currently funneling through from a justification and ROI calculation or other various evaluation process before we bring it to our city council and our mayor's office for review and discussion. Courtney has what might be, and no offense, Emily, don't hit me on this one later, the hardest job in economic development, because small business requires that same level of attention, that same level of grit and determination and of engagement, but you don't get to see some of that work in the paper. You're not going to see that hit the street. So, her constant engagement with small business here in our community, with 25 different BREs through various engagements with supporting Gahanna Together Day and Small Business Saturday. If you've seen our social media pages, the stories of our small businesses that are happening here in Gahanna, they're coming from her. I mean, she's going out and interviewing these businesses, engaging and understanding what's driving them, telling their human element story, and pushing that content forward through our communications and marketing department, because at the end of the day, we are Gahanna. Our small businesses are Gahanna, our economic-based businesses are Gahanna, our people are Gahanna. And if we want to tell those native stories and understand what drives our opportunities in our city. I always joke with this. The mayor doesn't like this slide. Just going to preface this right now as to what we do. So what my friends think I do, when I was when working in One Columbus and Grow-Licking County, I was probably with Justin or one of his contemporaries once every 6 months overseas. So my friends thought that I just flew the world and did a whole heck of a lot of nothing. My father-in-law thinks I really don't do anything because I work for the government. Kidding. And if Gary Kaminsky's watching this at home, it's the truth. What the public thinks I do, I will not name the public officials who brought this up to my attention when I first started this job, but I had multiple public officials who may be in this room identify that they saw me as the incentives guy and wanted to know what my perspective on incentives were at the local level. So that does radiate well. What other electeds think I do is I just show up for ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and we walk away from the project. What they don't understand is the 6 to 9 months of work that lead up to those ceremonial moments. What I like to think I do is I strengthen our communities. As economic practitioners, our goal ultimately is to create resilient, prosperous communities in which people can grow and thrive in. But what I really end up doing is losing my mind on a daily basis. You can see a lot of these words up on here. This is a thought bubble that I always love highlighting as to what our key drivers are. And I want, what you have in front of you are some pieces of what I call propaganda when you came in. But look at this thought bubble. Look at the concepts behind it. And realize that if you buy into any one of these, then you're an economic developer too. When we have businesses come to our community, when we have people thinking of locating in our community, they're going to talk. They're going to talk to elected officials, school board members, local business owners, planning commission members. They're going to talk to the general public. What's it like to be here? And if you tell them it's terrible, if you tell them it's a place that you do not want to be, that there's no opportunities, that there's nothing to do, then they're just going to pack their bags and move on down the road. So if you look at this thought bubble and you think, yeah, I believe in a good quality of life, and I believe in diversity, and I believe in opportunity, then you are just like us. You are part of our story. We can only be as effective as those who watch this program and are hearing us this evening as we work through these projects and we work through these programs. Because at the end of the day, they're not just going to talk to us. Councilman, they're going to talk to you. Councilwoman, they're going to talk to you. Incoming council members are going to talk to you. School members are going to talk to you because they want to get the holistic picture. So just be advised of that in the back of your mind. You sell this community just as much as we sell this community on a daily basis. How do we do what we do? It's all relationships. Between meeting companies, building that trust, understanding their key drivers, and executing against their visions. We focus on the relationship aspect of this. You know, Justin talked about the role of business engagement and how that works. It really starts at the local level. When we bring opportunities through, it's based upon the trust that we build at the early stages so that when something presents itself, we're their first call. And we know where to source them to the next step. In that same breath, though, it's workforce. So I'm looking straight at our partners at the school district. You know, because we identify the key skills, we're assisting in the program development, connecting the students and the schools and the providers of how that works, and then creating that high demand, high wage opportunity for our residents and their children alike. I've joked many times with many families, economic development is less about, you know, the shovel and the ground or the ribbon cutting nowadays. It's about passing the KICS test. Who knows what the KICS test is? Anybody have KICS cereal? Right? It's kid tested and it's mother approved. All the jobs that we bring into our community have to be kid tested and parent approved. Because if the parents and their high influencers, whether that's direct immediate guardians, aunts, uncles, grandparents, teachers, counselors, if they don't buy that that's a real career, then they're not going to help influence that child to go pursue that opportunity. So everything we do has to pass that test in my book. And those are the jobs that I want to bring into our community. What's in the pipeline? I want to acknowledge our partners from the Planning Commission that are here this evening because you have been busy. There's been a tremendous level of activity happening in our pipeline right now. And you can see some of the numbers that are here. New construction plus expansion, you know, and these are economic-based projects. These are not just, there's other projects that have been in the pipeline that are going through, but these are things that are going to be focused in a lot of our various sectors. 14 projects, $173 million, over 700 new jobs, over 230 jobs retained in the community. So we're talking almost 1,000 jobs total happening in Gahanna this year. This is this year. And you see the retail sector, the sectors that they're impacting here. So we do have some retail commercial. So you see activity over on Morrison with the new Moo going in. We've seen some activity, some strip center redevelopment activities happening. But I really want to highlight is the industrial, the housing, and the medical. Because what's happening in these sectors as we're competing for these opportunities is the leveraging of local asset. There's been a lot of conversation even this evening around incentivization and how does that come in play here. I'll boil it into the medical, for example. Those medical projects are happening today in a modern medical campus known as the Crescent that I was part of initial conversations with the mayor way back before, I think it was negative 22 days of joining the city. And that project was coming through city council and being evaluated. They have a pre-94 CRA. It's a 10-year, 80% abatement. Let's level set here for a second. Abatements can be a very mixed bag from a conversational standpoint, but what we're really saying at this point is that we're taking those initial tax revenues that generated new value and abating it at a certain level for a certain period of time. Why that matters in construction, initial cost of construction itself, materials, time, energy, the physical labor of actually constructing a facility can be quite expensive. The fit out of that facility can be quite expensive. The onboarding can be quite expensive. The infrastructure impacts can be quite expensive. So when you boil all that in, if we're able to save a little bit of dollars on it, be cost competitive, that helps the project move forward in that but-for sense. But for that tax savings, would that project happen otherwise? And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, it oftentimes would not. Only because what we're competing with, especially in that medical space, are our neighbors. I'm a frenemy, as I mentioned earlier. We are trying to build regional ecological areas for opportunity within our neighboring communities. But if we want that tax generation here long term, we have to figure out where that balance lies. In that specific project, in the Crescent project, being a pre-94 CRA, our friends at the schools don't like this a little bit, but we do have a revenue compensation agreement. It's a pre-94, which means that there is no negotiation. It's a flat rate, it's a flat term, take it or leave it, and then we figure out how it works with the compensation arrangement for TIF and other things. High level, I gave you propaganda. In your flash drives, there are fact sheets on all of this. I actually use Crescent as the example in the CRA. I use, in the TIF, I use the West and Old Gahanna areas to kind of highlight how TIFs work and how they're managed. There's also information there about special improvement districts. These are previously defined areas that allow for taxable assessment values to be put on, especially within a defined area, to promote economic growth and opportunity. And then there's NCAs, New Community Authorities. I'm not even going to go into that. That's a very text-heavy page. Good luck. Trenton, I wish you the best. But these are the programs that matter, because these are the programs that promote that opportunity and allow us to be competitive with our neighbors. Because if we don't have these, and Justin, I'm not going to put you on the spot by any means, but by saying that I probably put you on the spot, is to say that if we don't do some of these incentivizations, other communities have very similar programs, and if the ROI is penciled for them, they'll go off them in the same way. So we just got to be a balanced approach about how we execute on these ideas. But of those 14 projects, I would say certainly less than half, maybe around a third to 40%, are probably receiving incentives on some level. So we're not talking about the broad brushstrokes of everybody's getting these either. They're highly strategic. They're used as rare as possible, but they're used to close deals and create opportunities. This is still what's in the pipeline for this year. So good luck again to the Planning Commission. You got your plate full again in, well, I mean, there's only 2 months left. So I doubt all 9 of these are going to get through in the next 2 months, but if they do, yo. But in reality, this will start off what happens next year. So you really start seeing it again with new jobs, retained jobs, and what those sectors look like. And going back to Dr. Carr's comments, what you've seen a consistency of in both of these pending sites is also housing. So we've seen substantial increases of interest in Gahanna housing. So Mayor, if I may put you on the spot for a moment, there was a recent approval, 200 and... It was 360. Thank you, 360 new housing units coming online through Planning Commission. So this included the Casto project at Tech Center and Hamilton near the airport. This included West Johnstown Road and their project, and this included over on Morrison near Waterbury in a vacant lot. If you guys know where Crafted Culture is and Jordan's Deli in that area, that's also coming online. What's important in these conversations is, and I believe the West Johnstown is eligible for a 15-year 100% abatement because it's in the pre-94 CRA number 5. Casto's getting a 1080 because it's in a pre-94 CRA number 3, but the Morrison and Waterbury project got nothing. And that's actually going to be TIF'd as well. So as soon as the TIF hits, that project will be a substantial increment creator for the tax incentive district over there to kind of help offset infrastructure costs on Morrison, infrastructure costs on Hamilton, as well as improvements around the interchange itself. So these are things to also take into account when we're working through these types of projects. Year-to-date activity. So I always wanted to put this up, and I got to give great kudos to Michael Blackford, who couldn't be here tonight. I believe he's somewhere, maybe in the city of Gahanna, in his home, hanging out. But I hope that guy is outside the region, outside the state, somewhere warm or cold, whatever his fancy is, because he works his tail off. But this is the last 5-year projection that he gave me before he left. What I think is really important when you look at this graph is you see the decreases on the jobs created, the increasing numbers in the capital investment and its fluctuation. And then you look at this year. I've been reading articles from the Wall Street Journal, Money Watch, other publications that talk about the dam's going to break, the opportunities are coming. I hate to tell everybody, but the opportunity's here. That dam broke. That dam broke long ago. When you talk about, jobs up almost 500% over last year's number. And if you throw that number out, just throw out 2020 as a whole, and you look at 19, it's still up 112% in the jobs number. When you look at the capital investment, and it's up almost 700% over the last year. Okay, throw out last year. It's still up almost 140% in the CapEx. What that does is it creates opportunities for our residents in our community. It provides updated tax base for our schools and our city. And it really diversifies that portfolio some more. So as Justin noted, as a region, we're not heavy in one industry or another. It's 17% across the board broadly. Our major sectors, medical, logistics, manufacturing, you know, we have obviously retail growth and opportunities, but our principal economic sectors are those first three. And so that's where we're seeing so much of the pressure right now and coming forward in it. And I use this graph to be deceitful because that pencil in the sky at 956 should tell you everything you need to know, because when you start looking at the jobs committed number, that's a crazy, crazy value. I'm gonna take one step back though. Who's good at math? Take a look at that capital investment number on the bottom. Add up the last 4 years combined, 2019, 18, 17. I don't think that's 173. So we've had more growth this year from a capital investment in the city of Gahanna than we've had the prior 4 years combined. So something to think about as we start leveraging what these opportunities look like and how growth is affecting us here locally. Oh, and I did cheat. I put the other graph in there. So you see how truly outstanding this past year has been, and we have another $50 million somewhere in the pipeline coming through. So that number can still go before the end of the year. So before I jump off of this, you know, in your flash drive, I think is the most important materials you have. You have fact sheets on CRAs, on TIFs, on SIDS, on NCAs. And I put those in there because those are going to be continued themes of incentives that we control locally that we can hopefully create more prosperous communities through. There's a way to do it. It's very effective. Other communities are doing it every day. And you have a great team in place that can help guide this community through that. You also have the State of Ohio's Economic Development Manual. Anything I said this evening, anything I shared, anything you see in those fact sheets can also be found in that manual as a whole. It's built by the Attorney General's office. It's a great resource tool for any elected officials looking to have a better understanding of economic development, the tools that come along with it, and how they can be impactful or detractful from our community. You also have zoning maps. You also have CRA maps, so you can understand where these opportunities lie and how they all kind of work together. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I also gave you our Uniquely Gahanna for our summer edition and our Columbus Monthly with an insert for Gahanna. Take some time, learn about our community, see what's actually happening in that broad brushstroke sense so that when you are approached in the public realm about what's happening and why it's important to be here, to the earlier question, you've got the ammunition now to come back and talk about, you know, High Bank Distillery opening up a new facility at Morrison Hamilton across from the barn in Gahanna. You're able to talk about what's happening over on Morrison and some of the growth there. The fact that we have the region's first minority-owned brewery at Crafted Culture. If you haven't heard Sizzle's piece on our website about his growth opportunities and his business, absolutely should. Anthony's phenomenal, and is absolutely someone you should connect with. But you start talking about what these things do and how they impact the quality of life, everything matters. So to that, I'm going to cease. I'll be quiet, which is a challenge for me, and welcome any questions for myself or the rest of our wonderful panelists this evening for taking their time out of their busy schedules to join us. Kelly. Roving mic. But YouTube cannot.
Thanks. We talk a lot about job commitments on some of these incentives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are we tracking the actual fulfillment of
Yes.
those jobs?
Great.
And how is Gahanna doing compared to some of the other regionals or some of the other places?
That's a great question, Kelly, and I appreciate that. So as part of any development agreement that comes with these projects, there are benchmarks, there are metrics that must be followed, whether that's a capital investment number, payroll numbers, job creation numbers, all three additional metrics, just depends on what the opportunity looks like. So those are evaluated on an annual basis during the duration of that abatement period. It's evaluated through what's called a tax incentive review commission at the local and then county level, as well as the Community Reinvestment Area Council. We call it the crack board. I gotta find a new acronym for that. I inherited that, but we have those two different belts and suspenders approach for the incentivization process. This past year in our auditors meeting, so Mike's county auditor Cinziano manages that process for the county. We presented all our major incentives in the post-94 CRAs as well as our TIFs. They were found to be in whole compliance or above benchmark, and were agreed upon by the Turk to move forward. That legislation is actually pending before City Council now for formal adoption and submittal back to the state. We anticipate having the crack board meet next month to review other pre-94 CRAs. We do regular inspections of those properties annually to make sure that they're in line with their anticipated projects. But looking at the history of those projects, they have met the thresholds necessary. I'm not aware of a project that had to be revoked. Off the top of my head, I'm sure there have been. Every community has that. But again, I think with the team you have in place here, know that we do take that responsibility seriously. And as much as we like having those groundbreakings, those ribbon cuttings, we also like to validate. I always say trust, but validate on those numbers and understand what's happening in those communities. Any other questions? Is everybody blood sugar really low and we're just trying to get out of here and have dinner somewhere? Marissa's like, yes. Well, this is the first. I mean, I want to have these ongoing conversations. The mayor has challenged me to continue to be engaged in the community, to help share this information. This was the first item on her list, and it only took me nearly 6 months to execute against it, Mayor, so you're kind of welcome. I do. I got it right in the app, within the deadline. But we hope to have these ongoing conversations. So if we can come to the school boards and have conversations with those. I mean, you have tremendous leaders over there already, but if we can help share any light or aid any assistance. We have a lot of different nonprofits in the community that are always engaged in our business programming. We'd love to be able to engage with those. I know I'm joining the Chamber of Commerce's board of directors. I think Courtney's joining the CVB. Emily, I'm going to figure out where you're going to go next. Have no fears. But we want to be in the face and help move the community forward. So, Mayor, if you want to have any closing comments?
Sure.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
And I will not keep everybody because it's been an hour and a half, and talking an hour and a half of economic development can put anybody to sleep at any given time. So we did save the most entertaining speaker for last.
I'll take that then.
No, I saved you. So I just want to thank everybody for your time and attention tonight. From a local government perspective, local government at its core is responsible for three things: public safety, making sure people have a safe community to live in; public service, streets, water, sidewalks, all of those things that are crucial to your day-to-day lives; parks and recreation, those quality of life amenities. But at the end of the day, we can't fund any one of those three buckets without a strong tax base. And for cities in Ohio like Gahanna, that means income tax and a strong job base. Investing in the businesses that have chosen to stay here, how do we best support them to help expand and grow? How do we attract those new businesses here to bring more jobs here? All of that, and when Nate had the slide up there with all of the words on there, the one that spoke to me was the phrase that you called out, Nate, was the quality of life aspect. So everything that we've talked about tonight ultimately boils down to quality of life here in Gahanna, making sure that we are vibrant and vital and that we continue to be important and significant on the radar of the Mid-Ohio region, of the Central Ohio region, on Jobs Ohio radar. We can't do that without valuable partners. Our council members, I know we had Councilwoman Nancy McGregor was here, we have Councilman Renner, Councilwoman Bowers is here, and then two newly elected, Trenton Weaver, Kaylee Padova. We have our two of our planning commission members here. You got kudos tonight. You guys have been busy. Michael Greenberg, Michael Tamarkin. Some of our school board members, Daphne Mooring and newly elected Dion Manley, and one of our CIC members back there, Kelly Fox. It takes a community of people working together to make things happen. And of course, partners within the region and in the state, our partners at Morphsene. Dr. Carr has been an invaluable resource to us. It was about a year ago you came to council and presented the regional housing strategy update to council. And Jobs Ohio, Justin and I had a conversation, I think it was last year, about the Crescent Project and how important that project was going to be, the transformative and catalytic nature of that project, and how the eyes of the development community in the state were watching what was going to happen with that project. And ever since that project was passed by our city council, what has bloomed and blossomed almost overnight in terms of development on those parcels, with 4 now medical office buildings, a 5th one coming on board, and 5th and 6th coming on board, and then of course a very exciting project that we are looking forward to announcing. We keep teasing you with that in just another few weeks, so stay tuned on that one. That will be the groundbreaking picture you showed up there.
Soft hold.
December 6th, soft hold December 6th. Yes, please put that on your calendars. More to come on that. So again, I want to thank you. It's for your interest in sitting here tonight and learning and wanting to understand more as we pursue economic development here in the community. This will be one of many conversations to come as we continue this important dialogue, not only to educate our residents on why we do what we do, but also, again, to use your phrase, it's going to take all of us working together to move Gahanna forward. So again, thank you for tonight, and we will now excuse you to go have a very belated dinner. So thank you.